My name is Nicole O'Malley. I'm a clinical assistant professor and the director of the music therapy program at the University of Rhode Island. I found my way to URI through my own master's research. I'm also from Rhode Island, so it's obviously a university that I grew up knowing. Since they didn't have a music therapy program, the opportunity to be involved in starting one was very exciting for me. I really like supporting students and learning and researching anything around music therapy and neurologic music therapy. So music therapy researches the impact of music for non-music goals. We look at communication, sensorimotor, cognition, and social and emotional areas. Personally, my own research is weighted around the neurobiology of toxic stress and the intersection and role that music can play. I like unanticipated areas like neuroscience with emotion and stress. When I am not at URI, I am actually still on campus I'm the executive director of our nonprofit clinic, Hands in Harmony, that works with underserved communities using neurologic music therapy. I've gotten to experience a lot of our systems firsthand as a caregiver, and a lot of the knowledge and the road paving I've been really passionate about comes from my own experience with my children, seeing what we've had to struggle with as a family, knowing that I'm a healthcare provider. I'm educated on these systems, and the level that we have to advocate and struggle with that level of knowledge is just horrific. So it's really important to me to make sure that other families like us have access to the services that they need. I'm really passionate about helping support each individual student, helping them find themselves, really increase self-awareness, whether they stay on the path to music therapy, stay at the university, or find something else. Musically, I'd really like to help support the quantitative impact of our field. I love evidence-based methodologies and combining that with the arts. And nationally, I think putting URI on the map when it comes to neuroscience and music therapy.
Hello, everyone. Tonight we are pleased to present the final discussion in our Fall Faculty Office Hour series, where we're exploring the theme of brain health. My name is Karen LaPointe, and on behalf of the URI Foundation and Alumni Engagement, I'd like to welcome you to this evening's program. We also welcome Nicole O'Malley, who is an assistant clinical professor and director of URI's music therapy program. And joining tonight's discussion as moderator is Duval Clear, better known as hip-hop legend Master Ace, or Ace to his friends. He is a 1988 graduate of the College of Business and a well-known rapper who is considered highly influential in the industry. He emerged in the late 1980s and has produced 13 solo and collaboration albums. If you have questions for Nicole or Master Ace, please post them in the chat section on your screens. We'll do our best to get to as many questions as we can after the presentation. And just a note, today's program will be recorded. In a few days, for those who registered for the event, you'll receive an email with a link to the recording, along with recommended resources for further reading. You'll also be receiving a very brief survey from us, and we do welcome your feedback. Now, I'd like to turn the program over to Master Ace.
Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you could join us today. Today, you'll meet Nicole O'Malley, assistant clinical professor and director of URI's music therapy program, a new degree program that trains students to use their musical skills in a healthcare setting to improve patients' sensorimotor cognitive, language, emotion, and social outcomes. Nicole received a Bachelor of Music in Music Therapy from Berklee College and a Master of Arts in Music from Berklee College of Music. She's a neurologic music therapy fellow and has completed level 1 neonatal intensive care unit training. She is the founder and executive director of Hands in Harmony, a local 501c3 nonprofit offering neurologic music therapy throughout Rhode Island and nearby Massachusetts. Now let's hear from Nicole.
Hi, and thanks so much for joining. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I would really encourage everybody. I have an eye on the comments and on the chat, and I would really like to make this presentation as interactive as the virtual platform allows us. So if you could please type and be ready to ask questions throughout the presentation and answer questions as they're posed throughout the presentation, that would be, I think, much more fun than listening to just me talk. So first, to get us started, I would like everyone to think about how you currently use music. And if you can, if you have access to the chat, if you could post just any way that you already use music. Do you use it to exercise? Do you use it for communication? Emotional, does it help with stress reduction? Does it help with motivation or coping? Do you use it when you're hanging out with your friends or to connect, for entertainment, to help learn different facts? So if we could take maybe 20 seconds and post anything in the chat. And then Ace, how do you use music?
I use music in many ways. I use it to set a mood in my home for relaxation. I use it for motivation when I'm working around the house. If I got a bunch of things to do, something to build, I'll put music on the background to kind of get me moving. I use it when I ride my bike. I have a little speaker that I keep on my bike, and that motivates me. I usually get some up-tempo kind of, disco sound and stuff to get me pedaling fast. So many different ways.
Excellent. Thank you. And in the chat, we have an all of the above, and music brings me back to being a kid, especially now during the holidays. So I'd like you to just kind of keep that in mind throughout the presentation on ways that you use music, and then other ways that you might incorporate music as you learn a little bit more. I am going to start off with this video. And again, I really encourage you to use the chat. And I want you to consider and think about what you see in this video, what stands out to you. So if you can post in the chat while the video is playing, what sticks out, that would be wonderful. Oops, sorry, slide, technical.
Hi, girls. It's August 6th. Is that right?
Yeah.
August 6th, 2012. Daddy's going to play them a little song while you're eating their peas.
You guys ready?
So again, and then Ace, what stands out to you in that video there?
I love that video. I love the fact that they both looked at each other immediately. As soon as the first note of the guitar, they both immediately looked at each other. And it was almost like they non-verbally communicated and started immediately rocking back and forth to the sound of the music. Now, these babies are, less than 1 year old. And they already understand music, and they understand that it gives them a feeling. They are brand new to this world, but immediately they were able to connect to the sounds that they were hearing. And that's something amazing. It sort of shows you that we as humans it's innate in us to understand and connect with music in some way.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And what I'm hoping everyone or that maybe you noticed, was the movement, that they automatically changed from just being very introspective and in their own world and bubble to lighting up, engaging with each other, the interaction that happens, the rhythm and how that prompts movement. And what I want you to think about, what happens when your own jam comes on. If your favorite song comes on the radio, do you take a minute? Does it give you pause? If you're having a really awful day, does just the first couple notes give you something? Does it change your emotion, or does it just give your brain a second to be like, hold up, that's my song? And it does that. And music being innate, we have really, really wonderful research, and I'll nerd out a little bit in the presentation, and anyone that wants more depth on any topic, please email me separately. But I really, really love the neurobiology of music. And there's some very interesting research articles about how music is innate just from 2 to 3 day old babies and beat omissions. And just knowing that we have this innate tool that we can use for all the non-music areas. The neurobiology, neurology of music. There's so much more than I can fit in just a couple of slides, but engaging the reward circuitry, it's innate for 97% of the population. That's a pretty substantial portion of human beings on this planet that are able to use and access music. The brain regions are extensive, and through neuroplasticity, we're able to retrain or train around damaged areas. You're looking at executive functioning, you're looking at dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. I really get into areas around emotion, but even the motor cortex and motor regions and the corpus callosum and how all of those changes kind of happen neurologically. So we're gonna take that neuro, we're gonna set it aside, we're gonna talk a little bit more about it. And Ace, you're up for your rep.
Oh. Little old me. All right, I'll perform this song and we can talk about it after. I was born, son of Yvonne, Brownsville kid that wanted to be on. Hit the streets, run and be gone. Outside with a curfew. Got lessons on honesty and virtue and the people that hurt you. Drug addicts, ex-convicts. Living in a world surrounded by these conflicts. So many, too many to mention. You can feel all the tension. A mom's intervention. Trying to save a son from the worst fate. Getting home after 8 when she works late. Thank God for Nana. I was in control, in the lobby, sitting on tenant patrol. Cause folks getting robbed on the regular by chain snatching dudes just in it for gold. Son of Yvonne had a fight up the street. He's a nice kid, but ain't nothing sweet. All I do it for you. It's for all you did when I was a kid. Cause his mad friends ain't wanna be born. But I'm glad to be the son of Yvonne.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I don't think you can hear me yet, but
yes, I can hear you.
All right. Songwriting and that whole process. I'm so curious about your own journey, why you chose to write that song, and what it was like emotionally for you.
Yeah, that song was really therapeutic for me. I was dealing with the loss of my mother who had passed in 2005, and I'd struggled for quite a few years with it because it was so sudden and unexpected. And I felt like there was something, I felt like there were things that were left unsaid between her and I and didn't get to say those things. And that was probably where the struggle was. And so I decided to write this song and to really do an entire album about my mother and get a chance to sort of tell people about her, show people our relationship, and also get to say some of the things that I didn't get to say while she was living. And so I used that album and that song in particular as a form of therapy.
Thank you so much for being willing to share that with us. I think the root and origin of music is just so important in when we're listening to it. And the process of songwriting is really where it's at when we're working with a lot of the clients we work with. It's really about its song preference, but it's that process of putting it on paper that is what we're doing in music therapy. And in music therapy, the populations that we work at, this is at the clinic, we call it our population wheel, but really anybody. And to answer the question in the chat about the 3%, I've actually never encountered somebody there's a condition called amusia. And if it's something you're interested in, Oliver Sacks has a lot of works and writings on amusia, and it's an estimated 3% of the population. I've been practicing music therapy for a long time now, a good 20 years, and I have yet to meet anybody that has amusia. We've seen thousands of individuals in our clinic and also have yet to meet anyone with amusia. It's not, like being or having tone deaf or not having a pitch center. It's unable to process music at all. So the rhythm, the beat, most people, if you hear like marching band, you'll walk to the beat innately. If you're walking and a song comes on, you just kind of sink in with the rhythm and the beat. That's something, and why a lot of the motor, why we do a lot in rehabilitation in motor areas. So amusia is the 3%, but I suspect I don't know if it's less than that, but I've yet to meet somebody that has it. We work from prenatal through aging and long-term care with every population in between, development, even labor and delivery, the neonatal intensive care unit, behavioral health, mental health, toxic stress, substance use, pain, and physical symptoms like heart rate variability, rehabilitation, aging. And then we also work with caregivers and then the family. So it might be first responders, and then with the family and communities. We've started performance-based groups as well to help decrease social stigmas that are associated with, literally pick a condition. If somebody has something, we have a group called the Aphasia Class at the Hands on Harmony Clinic. And it's to help songwrite about a condition called aphasia. And it helps the group members, kind of the process of songwriting helps them share a lot, and it's therapeutic in its process, but then it helps educate the community on a condition. And the goal is to help decrease those, the social health stigmas that are related with the condition. I do get a lot of questions like, I love music. Can I just use that and call it music therapy? The music therapy process is pretty intense. It's a 5-year degree program with 1,200 clinical hours. And it's because we really need to understand why music plays a pivotal role in the non-music area that we're addressing. So music therapy uses non-musical areas. I'm not looking for someone to sing on key, except for the fact that if they're not, it might say something about reading happens there. I wonder why they're not, and make that association with the non-musical area. It's individualized to patient and family, and it is an allied health profession. So those 5 years result in a national certification. Rhode Island is a licensure state. So in Rhode Island, they would also receive a license in music therapy. And then neurologic music therapy is a specialty certification, like other disciplines have many of as well. Goal areas that we might address would include behavior and emotion, sensorimotor, cognition, social, and communication. I get asked a lot, studying the role of music in school settings. A little bit. We do music enrichment, and for music therapy, a lot of what we do is more targeted. It's music therapy as a related service. So we will be written into a child's IEP who has maybe a developmental delay, and we might work on goal areas, like we might work on motor goals, we might work on speech and language, cognitive, all those non-music areas. So really the distinction between music therapy versus music enrichment is our goal as music therapists is non-musical in nature. And in music enrichment, you're looking at instruction for music-related goals. I do use a lot of research in the neurobiology of musicians versus non-musicians' brains, because it's helped us understand a lot more about why music has the impact that it does. Family-centered care, again, I think it's just really important that we're not even just working with that one person, it's looking at the whole unit. So I mentioned the lullabies before, babies detecting the beat at birth. That's just 2 to 3 day old babies that detect beat omissions. Lullabies decreasing length of stay in the hospital, treating the whole person and family, being able to carry over. Think about the power of music. If we are working on something with memory or even a motor goal, we can put it to a CD and then send it home. And there's so many applications for carryover. And parental stress, because that also really helps with whoever we're working with, or caregiver stress. I do have some videos in later slides, but I'm going to put this video later because I have other videos I want to bump up. But the neurology of rhythm and movement, the rhythm activates the motor areas of the brain. And that's why we look at improved organization of the motor system. We do a lot with gait training. We do a lot with strength and endurance. There's targeted interventions that work on specific motor goals based on what's happening and what we need to activate musically. And then that's an area that's very assumable for carryover. Gait training's one that's usually about 6 to 12 sessions. And we're able to kind of use the music. It's very much tailored to the client. We would work closely typically with the physical therapist, kind of pre-establishing and determining any pre-gait exercises, setting the setting the rhythm to the needs of the patient. The song preference is pretty significant. You can't just really, throw on a song. Think about what would happen if I started playing Mozart. Some of you might like it, but others won't. And that's really where the power of music is. Looking at music and cognition, anyone from here, if I go 8, 6, 7, 5, usually someone sings the rest of the song when we're in a live audience, but I usually hear 5, 3, 0, 9. So being able to engage that music and cognition, it's how a lot of us learned our ABCs. Schoolhouse Rock. I have clients now that will sing phrases of Hamilton and could tell you more about the history around Hamilton after the musical was written than I had ever heard before. So just think of those small, subtle nuances and using music as a mnemonic and how you use it, and then why that is so impactful. I'm going to play another video clip, an example. And again, I'd like you to watch the video and tell me what you see in the chat.
Geez, it's about time. She's telling me I go to the wrong places for too long. I'm in here happier than I am before. So I'm going to stay here longer. Fly me to the moon. Let it fiddle it do. Musical and art. In other words, hold my hand, that'll live out. In other words, call me silly. Ribba-dooba-dum-dum, blibba-dooba, evermore. I worship and adore. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, I can only use it one way. With that around my shoulder.
Okay, so again, I'd like you to type what you see in that video, and then Ace, any thoughts that you have?
Yeah. Did that man have a particular condition, or was he just an elderly man?
Yes, he had Alzheimer's. So we're looking.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Which greatly affects the memory, but certainly he remembered the words to most of the words to that song, because it connected him to probably a time when he was much younger, maybe in his 20s, maybe it reminded him of his wife or his family members, but it brought him back to that time in his life, and he seemed as happy as ever in that moment.
And really listening and looking at how he does the bebops, but the melody is still on point. And then with just a very subtle cue, it doesn't take much, a very minimal cue, he's able to get back to the words with a little bit of prompting from the therapist. Mood, I know that particular day came in, he remembered the tune, even if he didn't remember the words. And then he was able to go back to the words with some support. And I know that day he came in, you know, it's confusing. It's a whole new place and a whole new space and clinic, and that can be very disorienting. And being able to come in that place like, oh, you know what, I really want to be here. And I might not remember or know what's going to happen because it's music therapy, but I know that I'm happy to be here. And then at the end, with the end lyrics are "I love you," and knowing, well, I can't say that to you because you're not my wife. But you know, so just kind of those conversations and those moments that can happen with the family. So I see, and he became engaged. He was just on point once the song kicked in. So talking about, again, this is one of those brain slides, but looking at the musician brain versus the non-musician brain. This is an image of the arcuate fasciculus from Dr. Schlaug, who does a lot of research on the musicians' brains, and looking at the left versus the right arcuate fasciculus. That's using DTI imaging, and just looking at the differences in the brain. And that's, again, not that's just as comparing a musician to a non-musician. But for me as a music therapist, the implication says, wow, like, look at the changes that can happen in the brain just from learning music. How can we harness that in therapy? And that's what music therapy is. It's taking those interventions to make those changes to increase the non-musical areas. Mental health is an area that I think is just across every diagnosis that you see. And so we spend a lot of time looking at depression and mood and mood stability and the interactive behaviors between, you know, our patient and maybe their parent in this case, or decrease in symptoms, and how we can use music to kind of help support those areas. This is a video. You'll see the lyrics and the words done by Janeris, one of our music therapists at Hands in Harmony, with acute adolescents. So this is in addressing behavioral health with a group of adolescents. So that's pretty intense if you think a group of teens, to get them to rally around something common. So again, I really would like you to use the chat and tell me what you see and notice and hear. I might have to cut it short on time though.
I've heard there was a certain way to live your life day by day, but I can't really handle order, can I? It goes like this: I break and fix, the minor falls, the major lifts. I will not let your silly rules fool me. I am human. I am human. I am human. I am human. My pride was strong, but I needed help. I saw the signs, I wasn't well. I tried to do it all on my own. I put up walls and orange cones, they all fell down, and now I'm torn. And from your lips you told me I am human. I am human. I am human. I am human. I am human.
So there are more verses, but again, it's the process of putting all of this on paper. It's finding a common ground. It's finding an outlet for expression, and being able to work together to come up with a product like this with a population that's suffering that deeply is pretty remarkable. So unfortunately, it's a beautiful recording, so my computer wants to play it again. But looking at music and socialization, again, looking at those interactions, the process of writing the song, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of videos of those very raw emotional processes because they're a bit too vulnerable to videotape and post. But the end result is, looking at the interactions that happen throughout the group, looking at turn taking and in music therapy versus play therapy. I think it's also really important to look at the cost of stress and the impact of music and the neurobiology on just toxic stress. I mean, again, if you can post in the chat, but has anyone here felt stressed in the past 24 hours? Or maybe the better question is, has anyone not felt stressed within the past 24 hours? Because if so, tell us your secrets. But $300 billion is the annual stress of in the workplace. 75% have signs per month. You look at increased mental health. You look at the number of physician visits that are stress related, the health disparities and poor health. All of that just outside of the day-to-day typical, and the impact that stress has on all of us. There's something called allostatic load with our brains always trying to kind of compensate and be in this homeostatic state, sometimes to the detriment of our own health. And what music does, if you think back to that baby video, is it stops the train of thought. So what happens if you're just in a really tough place and your absolute favorite song comes on? It doesn't necessarily change your day. It doesn't necessarily change the situation, but does it give your brain a moment of pause? And that's what our brain needs in order to regenerate. It needs that moment. And finding ways and opportunities to incorporate music into stress reduction. And I see, the irony of singing about chaos in an organized musical structure. And yes, it was from Hallelujah. We also look at end of life and pain. There is another recording coming up, the heartbeat recordings and heartbeat legacy. We use a heartbeat of a patient. It can be any age. This particular heartbeat recording you'll hear is a baby. We often use them for end of life. It's a specific intervention where that heartbeat, is really, it's our life force, and creating music with the family around that is extremely powerful and can serve as a legacy, or it can serve as a reminder of, of somebody's life and if you're looking at behavioral health. So there's a lot of implications, but it's very intense. And you're also looking at, for end of life, maybe quality of life. We're also looking at pain. We're looking at mood. We're looking at finding ways to bring the family together. If you think about those really stressful moments when you have a family member that's in end of life, and it's very awkward for the family. A lot of times families don't know what to do or how to interact. And the minute we come in and sometimes even just give them a CD after, we kind of spend some time with the family, like of music that they could use and talk about, it brings the family together. It helps them bond. All right, another performance by Generis. And this is a heartbeat recording. And again, it's, I think, one of the other very, very powerful components of music therapy is it's key that we work within the music preference and culture of the family and patient that we're servicing. So it might be in a different language, it might be in a different style or genre that, that's another question we get asked a lot, what kind of music? And it's about the kind of music that will fit the need of the client within their music preference, within their own, how has music been used for their lifetime, and that's very important in the intervention.
Silêncio entra na minha vida desde que tu parti sem despedida. Se uma borboleta perde na venta e a vida fica marcada pra eternidade. E silêncio tua força realiza mais. Cada così ora, cada così mare, ora di pai, amore certo. Brisa longe tá trazendo grito de desespero. Será que esse inferno tem fim? Será que não tá chega lá? Esperança tá cantando com força na minha peito, mas mundo dia tá da se voltar, pra não ouvir o grito de amor. Cada dia poi silêncio fuge de mim. Antes não grita, não ouvi beleza de silêncio.
So again, I want you to just think about the impact that can have for a family. You can hear that was a young child, and you can hear the irregular heartbeat, and it's something very personal. It's something that the family will always have. It's something tangible that they can take with them. And then the process was, it's an intense process, but it's one that is very therapeutic for the family. It's a hard, trying time to lose a child or anybody. Telehealth, again, COVID gave us the opportunity to, I think, push past what we thought we could do into, like many other providers, what we are maybe more capable of. So telehealth services for us started during COVID-19. It took us a bit to, move all of our services to a virtual platform and to really write out what would work, what wouldn't, and come up with a comprehensive plan with the team that we have at the clinic. And we were able to move everything virtually. And we did see a significant increase in need, a significant increase in anxiety from our current population and the community at large. It gave us the ability to continue to support vulnerable populations. And now we're looking at how we can increase access to individuals who might be living in places where music therapy isn't an option. And moving into performance-based groups. This performance was done, I think, 3 days before the whole world shut down in March of 2020. This is the Aphasia Class group. And it's at URI in the Performing Arts Center. And again, looking at how performance can be used as not just therapeutic for the patients that we work with. This particular group has written songs about aphasia, but it's also educating the community. And one of the group members that you'll see, he struggles to engage in coherent conversation. So you'll see him kind of hop in and just start singing. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 down. A ring of fire, a ring of fire. So with that, we look at recognition of music therapy. There's been a lot of movement on a national level We've also had a lot of movement locally, and what happens in the reimbursement world. Nationally, we're recognized by a number of bodies. I listed some. Local has been a bit more arduous of a process, but the past 20 years has really been about building access points and recognition. So we do now have state licensure. We are recognized as level 2 providers in early intervention. We are a related service in an IEP. So there are pathways and footholds with some groups and populations for music therapy in Rhode Island. Reimbursement, music therapists do have NPI numbers. We do use CPT codes. It's case by case, and frankly, it's challenging in Rhode Island. We're more apt to receive approval outside of the state, which is what it is. And I want to look at how music therapy connects, connecting not just the brain in the neurons and the neural systems and the neural parts of the brain, looking at the different conditions, the physical, emotional, social, cognitive, and communicative, how we can kind of work amongst all of those, and then people and communities. Giving voice to the underrepresented. So this is Rhode Island population health goals, but looking at how music therapy can help with community, looking at social health determinants, and building systems within the state. So this is my closing slide. I want you to please, again, either type in the chat or just consider, if you can't, how you might use music a little bit differently after this presentation, or if anything, other ways that you will use music that you haven't yet, or other ways that you'd like to try to use music again that maybe you used to use. So Ace, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but, or anyone else that can access the chat, but if you think of any ways that you will use music moving forward.
I think I use all those things, almost everything up there right now.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think now we'll be moving on to some question and answers. So if you could get those ready, I will stop my screen share. But thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate, and I appreciate you being active in the chat.
Thank you, Nicole. We appreciate it. Yes, it is time to get a few questions, a little Q&A for Nicole. If you have something for me as well. I'd like to throw one out at you. What made you want to take your music in the direction of music therapy?
I knew I wanted to do music therapy. My high school, the junior high band teacher, I was in 8th grade, and he told me you could take any 2 things that you love and turn it into a career. And I said, well, I'm complicated, so I like 3 things. And my 3 things were music, but I knew I didn't want to teach, and I didn't think I wanted to be a performer. I liked people, but I liked music, working with people, more like psychology, and I really like the ocean. So what can I do? And, he said, well, you could either do like marine biology and study some kind of audio something, or you could do music therapy and just like live by the ocean. So I went with door number 2. The minute he said music therapy, I was like, wait, what can I do with that? And it clicked. I knew, I was like, people and like psychology and all of the things, but using music, that is what I want to do. And I've been on a pretty dedicated, I'm fortunate that, I was young when I found out about it, and I was committed, and I knew it was the right fit for me right away.
A lot of people in your field, like do you come across a lot of other people that are in that field?
Yeah, we have 9,000 music therapists in the country right now. So it's growing. Wow. In Rhode Island, and just at our clinic, the state, we had, even just 5 years ago, I think there was just 2 of us or 3, and now we have more than 6, 7. So we are definitely, and then we have the degree program now. So the field's growing. There's a significant increase for demand for music therapists. There's more need now than, and I think that's come with a lot of the recognition and the kind of road paving that's happened.
Right. Now, the program at URI, it's still fairly new, a couple years. What's been your experience working in the program so far?
Again, this is one of those very unexpected things for me. I did not set out for a career in higher education. I really love clinical work. And URI approached me about starting a degree program and asked if I would consult because I'm pretty familiar with the landscape of the state in music therapy as it pertains to music therapy. And so I felt like that would be a wonderful opportunity for the university and that it would be a good thing for our state. And so I consulted, but then they kind of like reeled me in a little bit. So then each, they're like, well, you consult, we want to maybe teach a class. I was like, oh, I'll teach a class. That'll be fun. And I really loved it. And now we have 2 cohorts of students. And I've really enjoyed working with them and seeing them become music therapists. And so I find myself in higher ed. And it was definitely one of those, it was an unexpected career path for me, but I really, really love it. And it connects to clinical work more than I ever would have anticipated. It's a lot of the skills I use in the clinic, I use in, I use in the classroom, and the students and helping them to become clinicians. It's just so great to watch them grow like that.
That's pretty amazing. So there'll be a few music therapy majors coming out of URI in the next 10 years.
Yep.
Wow.
We've got 12 right now, and we just have 2 years in, and we're unrolling the program 1 year at a time. So we only have freshmen and sophomores right now. Next year we'll have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and it's a 5-year program, so it'll go from there. Oh, and I see a couple in the chat. I see, how can someone use music every day in everyday life to manage stress? You really need to think about your own music preference and how music helps support you. I did my thesis on the music condition relaxation response. And I think something that we don't even realize is the music that we choose that we think we find relaxing a lot of times isn't what we find relaxing because we're so stressed out. So every single person that I worked with misreported their own preferred music in the survey to the point where we would have even research subjects say I love piano, and I was like, all right, and so we would do all piano, and they're like, I what is that twangy instrument? And I was like, yeah, that's the piano. So we'd switch it to guitar. But I think what happens when you get so stressed out is you just can't even think through that. So make sure that the music that you're listening to and choosing helps relax you. And it sounds so obvious, but we don't even realize it doesn't.
Right.
Other questions I'm getting are, do your students come to you with a music background or science background or both? It is a little bit of both, but mostly it is a degree of music. So there's an audition process that needs to happen. But you can audition on any instrument. And then the science part we teach. That's why you come, right? So, and then the more in-depth music courses as well, but as a music major, you do have to audition for the music program like other music programs. I do not. One of the other questions is, what are your thoughts on double majoring with music therapy and music education? I very much discourage a double major because, again, they pick 2 things, and I'm the queen of picking 13 things when I need to only pick one. They are 2 very distinct and different careers, and doing both at the same time. I really like to sit with students and say, what is it that brings you passion? What is going to get you through the most tumultuous day when you just have everything being thrown at you? Because all the careers are going to have that, no matter which one you choose. You can choose performance, you choose therapy, you choose education. You're going to have really bad days. You're going to have really great days. So what makes your really great days like just super high, and what makes the really, what will make that kind of stick out? For music therapists, it tends to be that watching somebody sing their first words or walk. It's all those non-music, like, oh my God, look at what happened with that person. They couldn't speak and now they're singing. That lights my fire. Or wow, look at that person. They're writing songs about their experience and they weren't really super verbal about it. I'm really getting through to them. Like that I can do that all day. And you can throw any political malarkey at me if I can have that. music education, it's like, we can give music to anybody. Anyone can learn to play. You can teach and build and shape students and give them that music and give them that power. And for performers, like, you can share your story, you can put it out there, you can impact so many people just from the music that you write. So they're interconnected, but what lights us and what keeps us going is different. So I try to guide them into picking one. What are barriers to reimbursement? Oh, that's like a whole other presentation. Insurance companies are a political mess, is my personal opinion on that. But in Rhode Island, I think it comes down to recognition, awareness, and then it hasn't been done before here. So everything has had to be created from scratch. We had to create a bill for recognition. We had to create a bill for to recognize our certification. Everything has to be created from the ground up, and there's not a lot of people doing that work. So we are not planning on staying at 12 students. The program will grow over time. Right now, and it did launch during COVID, so that was fun. But I'm thankful that we were able to launch it small, so we could, because our students all do individual clinicals as well starting their sophomore year, and that would be very hard to manage. We wouldn't have the resources for that. The other question is, are there certifications and exams that are required by the state or federal government? Yes. And by the federal government, by the American Music Therapy Association, and the degree of music therapy is a certification that you have to take the big certification music therapy test. So it's very similar to a license. You have to renew it by continuing education credits every 5 years. You have to have 100 every 5 years. And then it's a 5-year program because there are 1,200 clinical hours, and that 5th year is about 900 clinical hours in an internship that can happen anywhere in the country. But there are a lot of classes. I can show a worksheet later to anybody who might be interested. When we put the program through, our proposal included 28, and that's just music therapy specific courses on top of 1,200 clinical hours, on top of courses like theory and musicianship and all the core courses that our students had to take anyway. So it's a pretty intense program. There's a lot they have to kind of they have to learn and understand.
I have a question, Nicole.
Yeah, keep going. I'm just reading through the chat.
I'm just curious, what is your instrument? Like, what do you play?
So my primary instrument's clarinet. I don't use it a lot in therapy. I'd mostly do guitar, voice, and piano. They're a lot more portable and also a lot more versatile as far as, genre and preference goes. Clarinet, you get classical, you get jazz. There's a little less versatility. And also the type of populations, I do a lot more with emotion, and I need my voice. And with my clarinet in my mouth, I don't have my voice. So.
Right.
There's some more questions in this comment section. Interesting classes. I'm a nerd, so I really am excited about assessments and documentation next semester because I'm very regimented about that topic. There's also music therapy research course. There's music therapy and aging and psychiatric music therapy, medical music therapy. So I guess which cool ones depends on what you're into. We have the Practicum courses, which are their clinicals. So that's when they're directly working with a client. And then there's this seminar and therapeutic relationships course, which is them building relationships with their clients, with each other, and with their own selves. I really enjoy teaching that class. So there are a lot of really cool classes in the music therapy major. Would a student be able to transfer through the JAA into this program from CCRI? You can transfer. And CCRI doesn't have music. We can't accept music therapy courses right now from other universities. We don't have what's called an equivalency program, but you can, whatever would transfer in, like theory and musicianship and other gen eds can transfer in. And yes, I am very into tracking outcomes and all of that in reimbursement. It was tracking, improving outcomes is key to reimbursement. We are very passionate about data tracking. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going back to the private chat. Does the doctor have to order music therapy, or can anyone access it? It really depends upon the population and where the referral is coming from. If you're looking at insurance reimbursement, they would need a physician referral. If you're in a hospital, sometimes the system will require a physician referral. If you're in early intervention, for example, you would go through your treatment team. In a school, it would be through your treatment team. There's a clinic you can always reach out to for a specific need or population. We can tell you what would need to happen to access music therapy.
Any more questions, guys?
Yeah. How many faculties are in the department? Well, our department is our entire music department, and I need to do a quick Google to get that one. But the music therapy, I'm the only full-time faculty there right now, but we do have 2 visiting artists that have taught music therapy courses, and we expect having another full-time line open hopefully very soon. I hope. If a student is taking AP music therapy in high school, what level of theory will they start the program? They take a placement test when they audition. The placement test isn't a part of it's not going to determine whether they get in or don't to the program because we still have the full theory sequence, and we even have a course in the summer that they can for compensatory theory if they don't have the skills they need for theory 1. But if they take AP music theory and they test at theory 3 or theory 4, they would start wherever they tested in the placement test.
Wow, it's been a very informative day. Great presentation, Nicole. Thank you for joining us, for being here to share this and spread this information to our viewers. As mentioned, guys, in the next few days, you will receive an email with the link to today's recording, along with a few of our recommendations for further reading and listening. And Faculty Office Hour will be back in February with a new focus on sustainability. So stay tuned. Thank you guys again for joining us this evening. And thank you, Nicole, for your time and for your really great presentation.